The Mice Discuss, Chapter 1. One day, Gentle the Mouse received a letter from his brother, Nosy. Gentle's family was very big, but he was the only one who lived in the great forest. The rest of his family had moved to live underneath a big house. They told him he was stupid to stay in the forest, because in the house there was always lots of delicious food. But Gentle loved living in the forest, and didn't want to live under a house, where it was dark and cold. Gentle didn't hear from his family very often, so he was interested to read what Nosy had to say in his letter. Dear Gentle, I am writing to you because we have a problem here in the house. I have heard all about what you have been doing. I am very impressed, and I am sure you will help us. For many years we have happily eaten the humans' food. We learned to avoid their traps, and we only come out at night, when they are asleep. We even know how to open the cupboards, so that we can eat all the food in the kitchen. The humans are not happy about this, but they have so much food. It is too much for them. We are helping them, really. The problem is, recently the humans brought a cat into the house. It is a big, orange, ugly thing, with sharp teeth and claws. It has already killed cousins Podgy and Limp. Now at night we are afraid to go out, because the cat is always waiting to kill us. I hear that you are doing very well in the forest. I hear that you are very powerful now. The frog, Hoppy, brings you food every day. The hawk, Bright Eyes, shakes in fear when she sees you, and carries you from one place to another like a pet. You were even able to make Crush, the great lion, afraid of you. I hear that now he has no teeth and claws, because he is so afraid of you. All of us in the house are amazed at you, Gentle. You are not the same scared mouse anymore. Please, we need your help soon. We don't have much food left. Get on your pet hawk and come and kill the cat for us. Lots of love, Nosy the Mouse. Gentle was surprised. All the things Nosy had said about him were untrue. Hoppy did not bring him food. Bright Eyes was not afraid of him. And Crush had removed his teeth and claws because he fell in love with Charcoal the deer. It seemed that news had left the great forest, but it was not the truth. Gentle didn't know what to do. It sounded like his family was in big trouble. But he wasn't the amazing mouse they thought he was. He couldn't argue with a cat, and he certainly couldn't kill one. But he cared about his family a lot, and he wanted to help them. So Gentle asked Bright Eyes to take him to the house. "Haha," said Bright Eyes. "No way. I only helped you before because you were friends with Crush. But without his teeth and claws, Crush can do nothing to hurt me. I don't have to do anything for you, Gentle." "I know you don't have to, Bright Eyes. But please, I need your help. I know you're good, really. You let Hoppy live when he deserved to die." "Oh, fine," Bright Eyes snapped. "I'll take you if you agree to not tell anyone about that. It's a deal." The journey over to the house was uncomfortable. Bright Eyes held Gentle in her claws, and he thought she was holding him a bit tighter than necessary. When they landed, it was nighttime, and the mice were waiting outside. There were dozens of them. Cousin Gentle, they all cried. "And this must be your pet Bright Eyes." "Pet?" cried Bright Eyes. "Gentle, just what did you tell these mice?" "It's a long story. You can head back, Bright Eyes. I'll meet you in one night's time. Bright Eyes flew away, complaining quietly. Quick, said Nosy. Let's get inside. The cat could be anywhere. They went through a hole into the mice's home. It was very big, and lit by small candles. Hello, Gentle. Good to see you. It's been a long time. You're looking healthy. They said their greetings, and pushed Gentle to the center of the room, onto a matchbox, and stood all around him. The eyes of all his cousins, brothers, and sisters shone before him, lit by the weak light. They waited in silence. Dear family, thank you for inviting me here. I am sorry that I had to come at a difficult time for you all. But not difficult for long, cried Nosy. Gentle, tell them all of what you have done. Gentle gulped. You've all heard all sorts of stories about me. But you only have part of the truth. It is true that I am friends with Crush the Lion and Bright Eyes the Hawk, but it is not how you think. Some of the mice whispered to each other. There was a nervous atmosphere in the room. Gentle raised his paw and cleared his throat. I made friends with Crush after I saved his life. So you see, cried Nosy. You were strong. You saved the life of a lion. All I did was to bite on some rope until it broke. I don't know if that's strong, Dot. But what about his teeth and claws? A deep voice cried out. Crush chose to remove his own teeth and claws, Gentle explained. He fell in love with the deer Charcoal, and the king of deer made him do it in order to marry her. Gentle was surprised this news hadn't spread to the house, but he supposed that mice didn't care much about the lives of deer. But how did you get the hawk to fly you here? Said a fat mouse. Hawks usually eat mice. Because of my friendship with Crush, Bright Eyes will not harm me. And Hoppy the frog. Hoppy is not my friend. I don't think he'll hurt me again, but I don't think he's scared of me, either. A terrible silence broke out among the mice. Gentle bowed his head and climbed down from the box. He felt many eyes coldly looking at him. It had been a mistake to come. Nosy jumped up in Gentle's place. Brothers, sisters, cousins. We must decide what to do with the cat problem. Our original plan has not worked. Then the mice started to argue. They were like the mice of the great forest, who loved to sit around in the field and discuss all day. But Gentle's family were not as clever as the forest mice, so they shouted at each other and made suggestions without listening to the other mices. Life in the dark house had made them stupid, and they were terrified, too. Gentle watched, playing nervously with his tail, as the discussion grew more and more angry. Finally, a mouse as thin as a twig climbed up onto the matchbox and shouted, Enough! Let me have my say, and if any of you hairy idiots interrupt me, I'll beat you. Gentle looked up, and in shock, realized who it was, Crackle, his younger sister. Crackle was weak and sickly. They all said she would fade away like the crackle of a fire. But Gentle had believed in her, and when they were growing up he looked after her constantly. She was much bigger now, standing tall on the matchbox, and she was more confident than ever before. But she was still the same thin mouse, with a voice like the crackle of a fire. We cannot get rid of the cat, said Crackle, but perhaps we can at least avoid it. The problem now is that we only come out at night, and we cannot know where the cat is. I have a solution. From behind her, she pulled a large, round metal object. It was heavy, and she panted as she pulled it into the center of the room. The humans call this a bell. When you move it, it makes a noise. She rolled the bell over and it tinkled. The other mice gasped. They had never seen anything like it. If the cat is wearing this bell on its collar, Crackle continued, when she comes we will hear her and be able to run away. An excellent idea, shouted Nosy, and all the other mice agreed. Well done, Crackle. Perhaps we did not need to invite Gentle along at all. Again, dozens of cold looks cut into Gentle. But Crackle shook her head. She was the only one who did not look at him. There is a problem. We still need someone to attach the bell, and as you can see, it is very heavy. Who will be brave enough to do this task? As she finished speaking, a tiny smile spread over her lips. There were whispers around the room, and then slowly all eyes turned onto Gentle. Even Crackle was looking at him. Now he knew that coming here had been a bad idea. The Mice Discuss, Chapter 2. Crackle? Gentle was following his sister through one of the corridors of the house. She was walking very quickly, and he had to run to catch up. This was difficult, as he was carrying the bell, and it bumped on the floor as he ran, making a loud noise. Crackle, said Gentle. Why won't you answer me? Crackle stopped suddenly and Gentle ran into her, knocking her to the ground. You idiot, she cried. She pushed Gentle off her hatefully. Keep that thing quiet. We're near the entrance to the house. Are you ready? Gentle shook his head. He still hadn't fully realized what was going to happen. He was going to put this bell on a cat without being noticed. But that wasn't the reason he was worried. I won't leave until you tell me what's wrong. Wrong? You know what's wrong. This hairy monster is living in our house, stealing our food. And you're still the weak, soft little thing you always were. But you've changed. Crackle stared at him for a long time. Her eyes cut into him, and he had to look away. Of course I've changed, she said, perfectly calm. We don't all have cute little lion friends to protect us from the bad beasts that lie in the dark. I wanted you to stay. But the family. Crackle leaned in close, making Gentle stop talking. He could feel her breath on his face. It smelled of something awful, but Gentle wasn't sure what. You didn't want me. Now go, oh mighty mouse hero, and put that cat in its place. She grabbed him by the neck and threw him towards the light. Gentle turned around to say something, but she had already run away. He felt sick to his stomach. When his family had left the great forest, he had been the only one to remain. His aunts and uncles didn't believe he could look after her, and they refused to let her stay. They weren't sure she would even survive the journey to the house, but they still thought that was safer than leaving her with Gentle, the weakest mouse who ever lived. No, Gentle, he scolded himself. You can't think about that now. You have a job to do. He took a deep breath and pulled on his whiskers. The pain made him concentrate. He moved towards the light of the kitchen, and that was when he realized the first problem. It was impossible to carry the bell without it ringing. He had to reach inside with his paw and hold the tongue, which meant he couldn't move very quickly. He reached the edge of the mouse hole and blinked. His eyes still couldn't see that well in the darkness. He was used to the bright open space of the forest, and the house was darker than the inside of Crush's cave. Gentle sniffed. This must be the kitchen, the room where the humans kept their food. The smell was like no food he had eaten in the forest. Beyond the kitchen was a dark corridor, and he felt fear just looking at it. He carefully took the bell, silencing it, and crawled forwards. His eyes slowly got used to the light, and he made out the shapes of strange objects. There were chairs and tables and bookshelves, but to Gentle they looked like nothing he had ever seen before. At one point, he thought he saw the cat and jumped, but when he moved closer he saw that it wasn't alive. It was made of some hard, white material, painted with blue patterns. Next to it was a small mouse, made of the same thing, staring at him with lifeless eyes. He had heard about the awful things humans surrounded themselves with, but he never imagined they were this horrible. He wondered if these had once been real animals, that the humans turned into evil statues. Was the mouse perhaps one of his relatives? Gentle felt hopeless. He was shaking with fear, and he had to hold the bell hard to stop it from making a noise. Crackle wanted to punish him. He had hurt her, more than he was ever aware. Why hadn't he written to her, all those years? He went red as he remembered that part of his life. After his family left, the other mice in the great forest teased and bullied him, and he had been so miserable he could hardly think about anyone else. He wanted to finish this and go home. The thing was, he couldn't move quickly as long as he was holding the bell. A long corridor stretched before him, with nowhere to hide, and he decided it would be safer to run across it and ignore the sound. He would have heard the cat if it was near, right? He ran across the floor, the bell banging loudly on the floorboards, and then out of nowhere, a paw fell on his tail. Oh, crumbs! A warm, heavy hand lifted him into the air, and the bell fell onto the floor and tinkled sadly. He looked face to face at a fat orange cat. Its hair was thick and heavy, which probably made it all the quieter in the house, and it had an evil smile on its face. Well, well, well. A new little snack has come my way. And this one has a musical instrument. You are the cat, Gentle said miserably. I have a name, she said. You can call me Fiery, although you won't live long enough to see my flames. You must be the mighty Gentle, who all the animals won't stop talking about. I have heard great stories of your power. Am I really to believe that you made a lion bow down to you? Fiery held Gentle close to her eye, which shone like a flame. He could feel her warm breath on him. It smelled of fish. It is true, Gentle said. He was sure he was going to die, but he might as well try. And I have a hawk as a pet, and a frog as a servant. Ha! I don't believe it. I always thought those mice were telling stories. If you're so great, why did I catch you so easily? Gentle couldn't respond to that. He just closed his eyes and waited to be eaten. Do you know the reason this family decided not to get mouse traps? After a few seconds, Gentle realized she was waiting for his answer. No. What's a mouse trap? A small wooden object with a piece of cheese on it. And of course, those brainless little things are so hungry. They would run straight to the trap, full of excitement, and then snap. Fiery slammed her paws together on Gentle, taking all his breath away. "Snap," he said. The trap falls on the mouse and kills it. But the family thought it would be cruel to use mouse traps. They thought it was kinder to let me do it. But I have stood and listened to the conversations those mice have, and in my opinion they deserve a bloody death for their stupidity. Gentle hadn't heard much about humans, but Fiery's story made no sense. Why would humans care about how they kill us? I mean, we die either way. Fiery laughed bitterly. You remind me of the little girl in my old house. She always asked stupid questions, too. You were in a different family? Gentle asked. In reality, he had no interest in the past life of this murderer, but as Fiery continued to talk, she held his tail less tightly. Oh! Fiery raised her other paw to her head in a gesture of pain. Yes, I was the beloved pet of a wealthy family. That is, until they got that beast. A tiny, happy, disgusting dog. I did what any kind, thoughtful animal would do. I put it out of its misery, and broke the spell that it held over them. I mean really, how could they love such a pathetic creature? You must know all about that. People hate you because you're pathetic, don't they? Normally, this would have struck Gentle's heart. But he was already at the peak of his sadness. Yes, I am hated throughout the forest. Exactly, said Fiery. You represent everything that is wrong with the world. You are the weakness that must be killed. The little girl didn't understand that. She made them get rid of me. Fiery stared into the distance, her face folding into anger, crushing Gentle with her paw. Now I have to get by in this dark, dusty house, living on old scraps of fish and greasy little mice. I am going to very much enjoy eating you, though. You've got a nice smell. Fiery lifted Gentle to her mouth. Wait, he cried. Haven't you ever considered moving to the wild? Fiery paused and looked at him with a cold yellow eye. I may be cruel and strong, but really I am a house cat. I like the comfort of a warm fire and a bowl of milk. Even if it is old milk. We could be strong together. The stories about me are not completely true, but I did change the great lion Crush. He no longer has his teeth or claws. And yet he killed the king of deer, because I told him to. Bright Eyes the hawk may not be my pet, but she does serve me, she is the one who flew me here. Fiery stared at him suspiciously. And how did you manage that? I am not strong, but I am convincing with my words. Just as you are. He found a confidence growing in him that he had never experienced before. Yes, you caught me, because I was without my allies. But together, we would be so powerful. Wouldn't you prefer that to eating old fish in a poor person's house? You are fat from the meat of my brothers and sisters, but once you have killed them all, what will there be for you? Will the humans still need you? They clearly feel no love for you, but the animals of the forest could at least feel fear. Fiery thought over Gentle's words for a long minute. She threw the mouse between her paws as she did so, making sure to never let go of him. He felt her sharp claws brush against him more than once, but he said nothing. And in the great forest, there are many other mice? Gentle smiled bitterly. Yes, there are many, stupid mice. 3 cheers for Gentle. Hip hip, hooray! Hip hip, hooray! Hip hip, hooray! Beneath the human's house a feast was going on. There was bread, cheese, raisins, apples. The food was piled high and the mice ate without fear. When Gentle had come back with the bell, saying that the cat was gone, nobody believed him. But after Crackle went out and investigated the house, she declared that it was true, even though she didn't look like she believed it herself. As a result, the fantastical stories of Gentle's bravery came back. In fact, they grew even sillier, and by sunrise they were telling stories of Gentle riding Crush into battle to defeat the King of Deer. It was the first time in Gentle's sad little life that he had been the center of attention, and he didn't know what to do with himself. At first, he said no, but as he ate and drank he enjoyed himself more and more, and finally started agreeing with the stories. He had missed his family, he realized. Crackle stayed at the edge of the party and went to bed early. Gentle tried to talk to her, but the other mice were pushing pieces of cheese in front of him, demanding he play a game called Cheesy the Rat King, where he had to put as much cheese into his cheeks as possible. And he could not play that, could he? The next day, Gentle woke up with a huge headache and Crackle staring down at him. Have fun last night? Yes, I did actually. Sorry, Crackle, I hope you don't think I don't care about. I didn't really do anything that special. I just talked to the cat and convinced her to come back to the great forest with me. Funny. That's not what you told the others. Gentle went red. Things were a bit crazy last night. I wanted to explain. Well, you'll be glad to know that your pet is here waiting for you. Oh. Bright eyes, you mean? And how did you convince her to bow down to you, I wonder? Crackle, you know, it's not too late. You can still come home with me. I can't make up for what I did, but maybe we can have a new life together. The forest is dangerous, but it's a better life than here. Crackle looked like he had just spat in her face. I don't need saving, hero. I enjoy my life as a house mouse. I wouldn't know what to do with all the strange events and strange animals in that great forest of yours. Without another word she picked him up in her arms and pulled him out of the mouse hole. The other mice were just waking up, and a few of them said a sleepy goodbye to him, but he was out of the door before he could reply. Hey! I didn't get to say goodbye to Cousin Nosy. I'll pass on your regards to him. Bright Eyes walked up to them as Gentle rubbed his eyes, which hurt in the daylight. I've been waiting for hours, she said. If you don't get in my claw now I'll leave without you and you'll have to crawl back to the forest. Gentle opened his mouth to ask for a moment to say his goodbyes, but Crackle pushed the bell into his hands. Since we don't need this anymore, why don't you take it home to remind everyone of how brave you are? And before Gentle could reply, Bright Eyes had picked him up in her claws and they were flying away. He turned around to see Crackle staring up at him, before crawling back inside the house. So what's all this about you being brave? Did you do a magic trick or something? Bright Eyes laughed at her own joke. I'm not brave, just a mouse with too much to say. I'll agree with that. Now, you'll never guess what Speedy's been up to since you were away. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe for more videos.